All right. Hello there, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk some heavy metal. Tonight, I've pulled up a few very rare new wave of British heavy metal singles for us to chat about, play some clips from, and give folks a chance to learn about them. These are bands that are pretty obscure. Some of the hardcore new wave of British heavy metal viewers, you're going to know these names and probably be familiar with the singles. But to a lot of folks, they may be brand new. Now, the ones I've pulled out tonight, I do not have physical copies of any of these. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First off, all three of these singles are fairly expensive. All of these would cost several $100s a piece. And the second thing is, for me personally, none of these are good enough to warrant that kind of price tag. Yeah. My collection is very much built around the records that I personally enjoy. Whether they are super rare or super common isn't the main thing. If I like a record enough, I try to get a physical copy of it. And if I don't like a record enough, then I'm not really interested in having a physical copy of it, no matter how cool or cult or underground or rare or expensive it is. That's just not what I want to fill my shelves up with. So I'm not saying any of these singles are bad. They're not. They're decent enough. They're just not ones that rank high enough for me to go out and spend a lot of money trying to purchase, or trying to trade a lot of other rare and valuable items in order to get a copy of. So they're not part of my personal collection. On the other hand, these are also bands that have anthology collections out that I'll mention. So if you hear something you like, you'll be able to check out some music by these bands without having to buy extremely expensive, hard to find vinyl. All right, so let's get down to business here. Our first entry for the night is a band called STORMQUEEN. Pretty good name for a band. I liked it quite a bit. They released one single in 1982. They did some demo tapes as well, but this one 7-inch single was the only thing they ever did. It was released without a picture sleeve. I've pulled up pictures of these on the phone since, again, I do not own physical copies of these, but that's the STORMQUEEN, pretty distinctive logo on it. And we're going to check out clips. We'll probably just check out a clip from each side. So let's start off with a clip of Come Silent the World from STORMQUEEN in 1982. All right, there's a little bit of side A of STORMQUEEN with Come Silent the World. Now, let's also check out a little bit of the flip side, which is called Raising the Roof. There are some clips from the STORMQUEEN 7-inch single. This one's very rare, very collectible. Again, for me personally, it doesn't quite hit the mark. It's not a terrible single by any means. Raising the Roof is a little bit too much of a party feel-good vibe going on for me, And Come Silent, the world just never quite feels like it gets going at full strength either. There are a lot of people that like the single, though, and I'm not trying to rain on their parade or anything. If you like it, that's absolutely cool. It is a very rare and sought after single. It's one that's got a few footnotes worth covering here. The pictures I was showing of the single, it never came in a picture sleeve. You just have that distinctive logo on the black background. But there were copies that came out on a red label instead of a black label. So you had like black print on a red label on the first version that came out. And that one is much, much rarer than the black label copies, like this one that I just showed. So, and this is also a single where the price has varied a lot over time. If you look at completed sales from about 2010, 2011 timeframe, there were some copies on the black label that were pushing the $1,000 mark. The single will not bring that much here 10 years later, here around 2022 at the time of this recording. The single is actually struggling to sell for more than $200 or $300. Now, I say struggling, that's still obviously a ton of money to pay for one single. But for example, a European collector had a copy on eBay just within the past month or two. It's a known seller. I've dealt with this person, both buying and selling and trading with them over the years. So the person is known in collecting circles. They had a copy listed with a starting price of $250. So they're not giving it away, but that's not unreasonable for somebody who really wants this one. They didn't get a single bid for it. Nobody showed any interest. And this was a record, again, that a decade earlier was sometimes pushing the $1,000 mark. I don't know why the interest has died off. It may be that just enough people have heard it and tend to agree with my take that it's not quite, the cream of the crop when it comes to new wave of British heavy metal music. It may also be that some anthologies have come out so that people are able to check out the band and own some physical product without needing to buy, a crazy expensive original slice of vinyl. For STORMQUEEN, there was the first anthology came out in 2006. This was done on OPM Records. It's a vinyl only product, and even that one is kind of semi-collectible at this point. Some copies came on white vinyl that looks really good. But then more recently, a collection called Raising the Roof came out on, you guessed it, High Roller Records, and this was around 2015. And so, again, you can check out a lot of STORMQUEEN material without needing to dig up the vinyl. The red label copies that I mentioned earlier, those still will sell for quite a bit on the rare occasion when they show up. I've only seen a couple of completed listings for those, and it still is getting you way up there above the $500 mark, can push the $1,000 mark. So rare item, expensive item. For me personally, it's not a band I'd want to spend anything like that kind of money going after. If I had several $100s to spend on a new wave of British heavy metal single, this would not be the one for me personally to chase down. But again, for folks that do like it, that's quite okay. They might like to go for that one. Okay, on to our second entry for the evening. This is another obscure one, and I got to pull up a different picture here. For entry number 2, we're going to be looking at a band called Shock Treatment, and this is the picture sleeve to their only release, which was a 7-inch single called The Mugger. You've got a guy in a hood over here with a knife and some lightning or a tree branch or building, something there lit up in the background. So let's check out a little bit of this single. So this one came out in 1980, and we'll start with the title track, The Mugger by Shock Treatment. there's some of The Mugger by Shock Treatment. And before we discuss the band, let's also check out a little bit of the flip side, which is called Nuclear Warfare. All right, there is some of Nuclear Warfare. So the only two songs released by Shock Treatment on a very rare 7-inch single from 1980, I believe. Let me double check. That one's 1980. So it actually came out very early, kind of the heyday of the new wave of British heavy metal. No demos or anything are known by the band. I haven't dug up or seen anything else listed online really about them, except that they did get the anthology treatment in 2019. Wait for it. It was, of course, another High Roller Records release. Put out a release called Binary Fallout. Includes just 6 songs, so doesn't seem to have a whole lot. And actually, looking at the track list right now, it's really just got the same 3 songs on each side. The Mugger, Nuclear Warfare, and a third song called Mr. Computer, maybe short for computer, not sure. So basically you're getting like 1 extra song on this particular release. However, getting a hold of the High Roller vinyl is going to be a lot easier than tracking down the original single, which is one that pretty consistently is probably going to push the $400 or $500 mark if it has the picture sleeve, and the vinyl and picture sleeve are in good condition. This is one that's always been pretty rare and commands a pretty high price. Again, if I had the money to spend on something like this, this would not be at the top of my personal want list either. It's not bad. It's obviously very heavy, especially by new wave of British heavy metal standards. At the same time, it's got a very odd sound to it. The clips from the Mugger, it's heavy, but it also has a little bit of a funny bouncy beat to it. It's a little bit reminiscent of older AC/DC. Has a little bit of almost like a boogie, bar biker vibe to it at the same time. And, Nuclear Warfare, it's obviously very slow, but then you get to the chorus and it's got that kind of chanty sing-along quality to it. This is very much a song that you're meant to kind of sing along to after you've gotten a bit sloshed, having a few pints down at the pub, listening to the band and checking them out. So, they're not terrible songs, but I feel like the heaviness the band's going for is maybe offset a little bit by some of the other qualities in the songs. So again, it doesn't quite hit the mark for me personally, but it is a very rare new wave of British heavy metal artifact, not one that you're going to come across very often. But yeah, the High Roller 3-tracker is out there if you really dig it and want to have something on the shelf by Shock Treatment. All right, our third entry for the evening is going to be another one that is on the relatively heavy side of the new wave of British heavy metal. This is a single by a band called Demolition. It features the songs Hooker Hater and Axeman. So let's right away go over and see what these sound like. We'll start with Hooker Hater. This is from Demolition's single. This is the one from 1981. So we've had STORMQUEEN from 82. We've had Shock Treatment from 1980. And now we've got Demolition in between 1981 with Hooker Hater. right, there's a little bit of Hooker Hater from Demolition. Now let's check out the flip side, which is called Axeman. All right, there is Demolition, another pretty heavy band by new wave of British heavy metal standards. Definitely going for sort of a gruffer tone overall, a little heavier sound than what you hear from a lot of bands from that era. This is another one of those singles that, with the picture sleeve that I was just showing on screen, it's going to set you back a few $100s to find a copy. And the price on this one, I feel like, has actually come down over time. This one, I feel like, used to sell for more, but copies have slowly made it out onto the market. And I guess we've hit that point where there's just not a lot of folks left, who are going to pay north of $500 for it. But it's still a pretty pricey item if it shows up in good condition. Again, for my money, it's not a bad single, but doesn't quite make my personal want list. The song Axeman, I don't like the sort of jerky nature to the lyrics in the verses, the kind of halt, he does like this. It just really kind of crushes the song a bit, in my opinion. Not bad overall, but not the one for me. Certainly not at the price range you have to pay to try to get a copy. Demolition has gotten the anthology treatment as well. Now, their collection came out a little bit further back in 2006, and it was on High Voltage Records. I remember when this one came out, folks were really excited about it because it had a lot of extra material on it. I believe I heard this comp at some point. I don't think I ever purchased it because, again, just not really the band for me. Not a bad band, not a terrible single by any means. Just their style doesn't quite click with me for what I'm looking for in new wave of British heavy metal. But if you come across a copy in the wild and make that lucky discovery where it's only a few bucks, by all means, snap it up. You're going to be able to trade it or sell it, and that's going to end very, very well for you. And that's going to bring this video to an end. So we've checked out 3 pretty rare singles here. And again, I'm not trying to crap on them or anything. I don't think any of these are horrible singles. They're just not ones that would ever make my personal want list. Cool items. Hopefully you got to hear something different that you might not have been aware of before. And now it's time to talk metal in the comments down below. So what do you think of any of these singles? Did something really pique your curiosity, or are you going to run out and try to track down any of the anthologies by these bands? If you had $500 to spend on one record, I realize that's, kind of an insane thing. Some of these records, that's what it takes to buy. If you had $500 and, the magic record fairy just says these $500 must be spent to buy one record, you can't use them to pay bills or go to the dentist or fix your car. This money must be spent on a record. Which record would you buy? Would it be one of these 3? Probably it's going to be something else. But what's that one kind of dream item that you would drop big money on if you had the money to spare and it had to be spent on something just for fun to add to your collection? Leave a comment below and let's see what kind of things are on people's wish lists out there. All right, with that, it is time to bring this to an end. So you know the drill. Take care, and until next time, keep banging that head.